HALALYAM YAHAWAH BAHASHAM YAHAWASHI BAHASHAM QADASH MASHANAKABALA HAMALAHAKIM WAZAKWANYAM SHAWRACHAM GADAL Shalom Wabarakim Al Noah Adon Rataza Nachna Wahaya Shalabachayar Zahawa Ibad Ariyah Mayan Haji MS Orlando Camp. I just want to make a quick lesson going into a couple of bookmarks that I have on Twitter, going into some prophecy and how we are drawing closer and closer gradually to the uprooting of civilization as we know it, as things continue to get worse. People are going to get hungrier and they're not going to be able to provide for their families. People aren't going to be able to travel as freely, and it's going to turn more and more into a what they call a police state. In fact, I'll grab the definition of that real quick. A police state is a government that exercises extreme repressive control over public and private life. Key features include heavy surveillance, a lack of civil liberties, and the use of police force to crush political dissent, which we see with these expansion of flock cameras. We see with the IDF merging, and as well as ICE agents being more aggressive in their operations and their authority, their power to exercise their authority and ignore people's constitutional rights. Total control. The government rules by force and ignores regular legal rules or court procedures. Right. I had just heard of a news story where ICE had wanted this guy to be held past his conviction, longer than his conviction, and ultimately they needed a warrant in order for the city to hold him, but they didn't get one. And so the guy, they said it was an illegal immigrant, Northern Kingdom, and he ended up murdering a white woman or something like that when he got out, because the city was like, that's unconstitutional, that's illegal, we can't hold him if he already served his time. And if you wanted us to hold him, we could have done that, but you would have had to go through the proper channels, and ICE didn't do that. So more things like that is going to happen as well. It was a weird story in my opinion, but it's the spirit ultimately. I mean, this all ties into what is going to justify Esau coming down with that great wrath, because the illegals are out of control, the people need to be bridled, need to be censored. All right, protesters, they're unruly, and we have to regain control and put everything in order out of chaos, this, that, and the third. So that's why it's gonna bring a lot of this trouble upon Babylon the Great. Constant surveillances, spies, secret police, and digital tracking. Watch what people do and say. No free speech. Newspapers, media, and public talks face strict censorship to stop anti-government views, and arrest without trial. I was going to say next is these court proceedings that would usually accompany these detainments and these different things, lawsuits, and getting your lawyer and your right to do this, right to do that. That's all going to go out the window. All right. People can be put in jail quickly without a fair legal check or real proof of a crime. and they have examples in history. There were a lot more recent examples than that. But yeah, so before I get the scripture, I just have these couple things bookmarked. This one in farming, it says it's too fast, too big. Speed of climate crisis is devastating crops, says farmers. Drought and extreme heat are killing plants, driving up prices while also making some farms economically unviable. Okay, which is going to lead to, of course, famine. It's going to lead to, it's already led to higher prices. You know, that's going to lead to, food. Well, it's leading to food scarcity. People been complaining about not being able to afford groceries, and a couple things costing upwards of $70 to $100, and then the farmers. There's a lot going on with the farmers, and a lot of it is intentional. I would say manufactured. But the heat, all these strange weather patterns and harsh conditions are a factor as well. It says U.S. This next one, it says U.S. company Satiris. Sounds like satyr, like that mythological, demon entity thing, where it's like a centaur, a man with a horse body. U.S. company Satiris is developing 3 halves, a centaur-style robot designed for dangerous environments such as wildfires, rubble searches, toxic areas, and confined spaces. The system combines a humanoid upper body with a quadruped mobility platform. So they literally, oh my gosh. So, they market it in a way that's like, well, this is going to be helpful for in times of crisis. We'll use it to, help the people. But clearly, this is the same as them robot dog things and police dogs. They show you that in that Black Mirror episode. These things are going to be used to police the people, to control the people. You know what I'm saying? Just look at it. Even the fact that they designed it the way they did, it's not going to be used to, it's not going to be a part of, public servitude, It's going to be used for, basically to control, to further control the people. And then it has these different components. They say, well, hold the whole chainsaw. Like, what is this? And they gave it that, resembling Baphomet, resembling these different idols that they worship and have these secret councils with. There's nothing about this, okay, that is for the people's benefit. It features modular limbs, replaceable components, and a quick tool interface for different missions. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, people making jokes about it, but yeah, quote unquote rescued. And then this one is an interesting one. In secretly recorded meetings, Israeli Jews Hanan and associates claimed involvement in 33 presidential level election campaigns worldwide, saying 27 were successful. They described offering services such as hacking email/messaging accounts, sabotage in large-scale social media, disinformation via software that could control tens of thousands of fake profiles. The group marketed itself to political clients, private companies, Florida small hat congressmen, gay small hat Mexican podcasters, and intelligence agencies.
New phenomenon which effectively distorts.
Shalom Aleichem. Shalom. George is the nickname, and I don't have a name. You saw what it said on the door, right?
No.
It says nothing. It says nothing.
My name is nothing.
That's who we are. We are nothing.
This is Tal Hanan, the mastermind behind Team Jorge, a covert unit that specializes in hacking and disinformation. For 2 decades, Hanan's real identity has remained secret. He operates in the shadows using his worked and how he manipulates elections for money. So the disinformation industry is a relatively new phenomenon, which effectively
Why our system is considered by the type of client that buy it.
We have thousands of profiles. Each and every one of them multi-layer. It means they have Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and YouTube channel and Telegram.
Yeah, so it is 5 minutes, so I'm not playing the whole thing, but Salakia. So if they're doing this for, different election campaigns worldwide, and they're making all these fake profiles and spreading, certain information that they want to go out there to the masses and influencing the people's minds. And, think about how long they've been able to do this. Think about all that they've been doing. They may put this guy Hanan on the forefront right here, just so people can put a face to, oh, this is the bad guy, it's his fault, blah blah blah. But they've been doing this. This is not the only one, and it won't be the last. It's not the first, it won't be the last. And think about how, because Twitter is completely overrun. I mean, it's obvious though how many AI fake profiles and all that is on Twitter, but imagine everywhere else, and imagine, not even imagine, just think about how much people have been influenced by just Esau Edom. You got undercover agents and people, a part of the CIA, FBI, these different government affiliates that are controlling the minds of the populace, through all these different secret councils and such. And it's always Amalek. It's always Amalek behind it, which is the chief house of Edom. But ultimately, all Edom is guilty, But this is what we can accomplish for Nigeria in a short time. Yeah, because they the ones that are pulling the strings behind the scenes, and appealing to the people with these different, labels, with these different identities, so I forgot the term. I don't know if it's controlled opposition or PSYOP maybe. But yeah, Esau, this is ultimately, it's all witchcraft, by, let's grab that. I believe this is the one I'm thinking of, Isaiah 14:13. Thou art wearied in the multitude of thy counsels. Let now the astrologers, the stargazers, the monthly prognosticators stand up and save thee from these things that shall come upon thee. Behold, they shall be as stubble. The fire shall burn them. They shall not deliver themselves from the power of the flame. There shall not be a coal to warm at, nor fire to sit before it. Thus shall they be unto thee with whom thou hast labored, even thy merchants from thy youth. They shall wander every one to his quarter, none shall save thee. So all the verse 12, that's it. Stand now with thine enchantments and with the multitude of thy sorceries, wherein thou hast labored from thy youth. If so be thou shalt be able to profit, if so be thou mayest prevail. So this is what Esau does. He engages in wizardry, witchcraft. He's, into these different idols, these demons, these spirits on the left-hand side that he worships and communes with, and these different things. He basically does it in order to gain control over the minds of the people, through this predictive programming, the news, the media, different media outlets, not just mainstream media, but even like the post said, podcasters, intelligence agencies, all these different outlets and sources to appeal to whatever group at whatever point in time. They have something for everybody where it can influence you and steer you in the direction that they want you to go in. That's, that witchcraft that is doing. Not to mention, you think about pharmaceuticals, which goes back to the word pharmakia, which is just literally witchcraft, drugs. All right, and that takes over the minds of the people. That keeps the people in a dead state of mind, a docile state of mind, a paranoid state of mind. All right, sedated state of mind. So, yeah, man, Esau is an expert at that. Dealing with psychology. Esau gonna do the most. Esau been doing the most to control the minds of the people. And, Lord's will, we're a part of that number. Only the elect is not going to fall for it. Only the elect is not going to be under that mind control. Esau does a lot by way of, mind control, doing certain false flags, using a lot of extracurricular terminology like domestic terrorists and, especially Amalek, because they have a certain, this is agenda. This is how to run an agenda 101, and then I think the last one I have says the BBC has compiled evidence of 160 Palestinian children deliberately shot in the head by small hat snipers in Gaza. The reports state small hats are hunting children for sport.
The BBC World Service has compiled material on over 160 cases.
So she basically said the same thing. But yeah, I wanted to grab those, just mainly going into how we're moving further and further towards, ultimately the RFID hip, and World War III and sedition, when finally, Lord's will, and I'm looking forward to it, when finally, I've been meditating on these different scenarios, been wanting the end. And I'm sure I can speak for all brothers, because, we're tired of this place and people going on, living life, how they're living it in such pride and wickedness. We're tired of our people being able to do the things that they do, completely disregarding life, completely disregarding order, and ignoring the warnings. We want something to really pop off, something to really happen. And the Lord is making it happen. And we're measuring the time diligently in itself, but soon, soon, it's going to affect individuals on a much greater scale. And we cannot wait for that. Because we want, through the Spirit, the Lord wants society to crumble, and for the usual regular daily operations of life in this wicked society to come to a screeching halt. And it will. That's the only way that the Heavenly Father's power will finally be acknowledged. And by way of these things coming to pass, then the prophets will finally be acknowledged. Prophets will be vindicated and justified. Although we will, be blamed. They will continue to try to blame us and bring up charges against us. Vocab Malone, as much of a persona non grata, as much of a joke as he is, it's actually not a joke. It should not be understated, how serious, how critical his role in our persecution is. Okay? He's not just some guy that comes up and wants to debate and, he's actually a very important player in prophecy. All right, the brothers liken him unto Haman, the Amalekite that tried to get Israel destroyed. Okay, so he's coming in this vocab alone. He's coming in the same spirit. He's holding seminars. He's holding, PowerPoint showcases of, the One Westers, the radical extremist groups, GMS. Always, and he particularly has a freaking, what's the word, pungent, or, he's particularly against, GMS, the apostles and elders on down, because we have the full truth, so he's mainly against us. He mainly wants to, label us as extreme. And that's going to lead to, more eyes being on us, more people, speaking against domestic teism, and you're committing treason. You have the same radical ideology, therefore you yourself are considered this as well, and grouping us in with, Islamic theists, and these are the things that are going on now in order for the stage to be set for when it really gets serious. Okay, because when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them. But at the same time, if you've been paying attention, then you see how gradual it's been. You see how much work Esau has been putting into, setting up his NWO. So 2 Ezra 15 and 14, woe to the world and them that dwell therein. For the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up to fight against another, and swords in their hands. And we're seeing more videos of racism and, Shud the Builder, and different people fighting and debating about race, more and more. The gender debates, more and more. All different types of podcasts and things being put out there, media, entertainment, to cause more division in America. Okay? So one people shall stand up to fight against one another, mainly dealing with, race riots and such, and swords in their hands. For there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes. Salakia. And the course of their actions shall stand in their power. A man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. Okay? For because of their pride, the city shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. A man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their goods with the sword, and spoil their goods. But shall destroy their houses with the sword, and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread, and for great tribulation. Right. So more people are going to get more aggressive. They have, oh, I got to feed my family, this, that, and the third. And so this is what they're going to be doing in order to save themselves. 2 Ezra 16:46, for strangers shall reap their fruits and spoil their goods, overthrow their houses, and take their children captives. For in captivity and famine shall they get children. And they that occupy their merchandise with robbery, the more they deck their cities, their houses, their possessions, and their own persons, the more will I be angry with them for their sins, saith the Lord. You know? So going into, this captivity that we're in, mainly, starting with 2/3 of our people, all right, the Lord has been provoked unto anger. And so what's going to happen is the Lord is really using Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, as well as the heathen nations, as a rod of correction for our people. And yet for all these things, our people still won't turn away from their sin. And so the Lord's going to have to bring upon 70 AD all over again. Babylon, our Babylonian captivity, our Syrian captivity, repeated captivities in the book of Judges, all over again. But this is going to be the very, very last one, because it's going to be the very worst one, where this is it. All right. If you're not repenting now, well then it's over for you, because his mercy is going to be removed out the planet Earth. His spirit will be taken out of the earth. Only those that are, possessed of his spirit now, only those that sought him while he may be found now, are going to be stable in those days and be hidden from all evil to come. But hey, the IDF, these different troopers and such, and the AI, bots that they have, like the dogs, now the centaur like, android thing. These things are going to be used to keep you people in line. Different draconian measures will be implemented, going back to the ancient Roman Empire, like firing squads, over policing and monitoring everything that you say. All right, like how China has its social credit system, and you've never had any privacy in the first place, but now that Esau is being open about how your data is being collected and sold, and monitoring your posts and this and that, your purchases, now is clear, and the people are just going to ultimately accept it because they can't do anything about it. That now you're going to actually be held accountable for these things, such as how different reporters, journalists, independent journalists, even mostly, but even journalists that are tied to big, brands, getting death threats. They're getting harassed. They're getting, to the point where they have to relocate their families, change their phone numbers, change this, change that. And it's that bad. It's been that bad, and ultimately leading to martial law. Like I said, strangers shall basically run up in your house and take you and take your goods. And they'll have full jurisdiction. They'll have the full, what's that, immunity? I forgot the exact term, but they'll be able to do this. They'll be able to. They've already been doing it. All right. I'm still like, not shook or anything, but it was surprising. It was a little surprising. Like, ICE done ran up in the crib, just a whole bunch of Eves, a whole bunch of so-called black women and some little children, barely dressed, handcuffed, sitting on the side of the road in the cold at night, ICE ransacking their apartment or house, whatever, and then not giving a damn, laughing at them, saying, deal with it, making these little comments, and no human decency, no respect, nothing. And this is what they're trained to do. This is how they're trained to act. So you can imagine when they, really come down, it's going to be bad. It's going to be really, really ugly. So this is why we warn our people to get right with YAHAWASHI now, so that they may be of the prudent that are hidden. They may be of those that are sighing and crying and get exempt from the judgment that is to come, because these things will and must come. But that's pretty much all I had to do. The Spirit, Lord's will is edifying. Bashanika ba lahamal akim wazakwanyam shal racham gudal shalom barakim al nawa adwan rtazah nachna wa hayah shal v'chayar wa barakim kabad hawad wa Allah la Yahawah wa YAHAWASHI thamyad wa la awalamim always and forever. Shalom.